SPM ni penting bagi satu kunci lah. Dia macam engkau lahir kat dunia ni, Allah bagi beberapa kunci. Kau nak tak kunci tu untuk kau access masa depan kau. Contoh lah, macam setengah orang Allah izin bertuah sebab hidup dia mewah, banyak duit. Ada setengah tu Allah izin dia pandai. So itu kunci kau untuk kau pergi kepada kau punya dream. Aku setuju dengan Han, dia kata sebenarnya soft skill tu yang penting. Tapi aku juga setuju dengan Alan sebab aku pernah nampak situation, ada dua orang kawan aku dah masuk medik. Tengah-tengah medical degree tu tiba-tiba diorang kena tukar degree. Sebab apa? Diorang tak cukup requirement yang MMC letakkan. MMC tu adalah orang yang macam regulate doctors kat Malaysia ni lah. So kalau kau nak tahu doktor tu tipu ke tak, buka MMC, tengok nama doktor tu. So kawan aku tu, sebab dia tak dapat minimum requirement, dia kena tukar degree. Kesian lah, macam kiranya opportunity kau tu dirampas macam tu je sebabkan kau tak ada SPM. Unless lah, walaupun low requirement, kau boleh je masuk benda yang kau nak tu. Tapi kalau kau ada opportunity dalam segi duit, kalau hang pandai, hang kan boleh jadi kaya macam Ali Shukri, boleh kaya macam Datuk Seri Vida. Macam mana hang tahu dia pun tak pandai? SPM tu tak semestinya menunjukkan kau pandai. SPM tu kadang-kadang tu boleh reflect kau punya hard workship. Oh, mungkin boleh tunjukkan yang kau ni genius atau tak lah. Tapi sebenarnya benda tu bukan betul-betul kau punya pembaris untuk betul-betul tunjuk yang kau ni adalah seorang yang pandai. Sebab certain orang, pandai dia dekat tang lain. SPM ni, dia penting kalau kau rasa kau nak pergi ke arah yang macam akademik. For example, macam pharmacy, medical, dentist. Semua tu ada minimum requirement. Tapi kalau macam kau rasa macam kau nak ambil arts, aku bukan cakap arts tu untuk orang-orang tak pandai. Kadang-kadang tu SPM ni tak berapa nak penting pun sebab dia tak tengok pun SPM tu. Dia lebih pada orang tengok kau punya ni. Kiranya itu sistem kita lah. Sebab aku rasa sebenarnya arts ni kalau orang pandai ambil, dia jadi power gila. Sebab bagi aku arts ni lah yang macam membentuk dunia ni. Sebab kita perlukan pemikir. Compact tu ya, kalau kau kerja as doctors, kau kerja as pharmacist, fikir memang fikir tapi dekat sudut tu je lah, dia tak memimpin lah. So tak guna lah kau punya kepandaian tu kalau kau jadi orang kata hamba abdi orang kan. Antara professionals versus business kan, mana yang lagi promising daripada sudut pandang aku yang agak senteng ni. Kalau zaman dulu ya professional nampaklah lagi promising, tapi zaman sekarang ni professionals tak nak keluar daripada professionals orang. So orang-orang baru professional ni tak boleh nak masuk. So bila orang baru ni tak boleh nak masuk, tak adalah peluang as banyak macam dululah. Kalau nak cakap business, art semua tu lagi promising pun tak juga sebab kau kena sentiasa ada niche kau. Kau tak boleh sentiasa klise cari ikut orang. Orang buat ni, kau buat benda ni. Selalu benda-benda macam tu memang sebab aku duduk dekat kawasan Bangi Central tu, kedai buka, tutup. So sama je lah. Untuk adik-adik yang baru dapat result, aku sebenarnya rasa kalau aku nasihatkan ketahui minat anda, aku rasa macam dah lambat lah. Sepatutnya korang kena tahu, kena fikir masa korang form 4 tu, yang masa korang tengah enjoy tu. Tapi kau nak ikut siapa? Parents ke? Rasa hati kau ke? Ataupun kau nak tengok qualification kau? Sebagai seorang yang dah grad, aku nampak lah sepatutnya yang paling penting kau kena tengok kata-kata hati kau lah. Bukan nak kata jangan ikut cakap parents kau. Sebab kadang-kadang parents tu, diorang tahu diri kau as orang lain, bukan tahu diri kau as diri kau.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to the Khadijah and our fellow audiences. I hope everyone is in the pink of health. So our topic for today is SPM the ultimate life decider? So the keyword for our presentation today is ultimate. So as for today, in light of our chosen topic, we hope that the audiences can view our topic from a fresh and positive perspective. Before I jump straight into the topic, I'm just gonna share briefly with you about Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, or better known as SPM. So SPM is one of the biggest examinations in Malaysia. It is compulsory for 5 students to sit for SPM because SPM is basically a transition point from secondary school to tertiary education. Doesn't matter if they choose to go for sixth form, technical education, matriculation or foundation. The compulsory subjects that the students have to pass are Bahasa Melayu, English, Sejarah, Pendidikan Agama Islam and Mathematics. Okay, so they need to pass these subjects because it's actually a requirement for them to apply wherever they want to apply. Okay, so moving on. I'm sure we all went through this back in our secondary school days because we used to take SPM, right? I think we are quite familiar with the approach of brainwashing students to get straight A's or straight A+ in SPM. And I'm sure the current SPM takers eventually face the same thing too. teachers and parents somehow like to motivate you to get straight A's and better yet straight A plus in your SPM, because apparently if you get straight A's or straight A plus, you will go far in life and you have a comfortable life after SPM. I don't disagree with this belief, because yes, I do agree with this belief where good education takes you to places. Good education gives you easier accessibilities to scholarships, interviews, etc. The common map that is always laid to students by parents and teachers are get straight A's in SPM, go get scholarship, go to good university, and a secured life. Now the thing is, what we don't agree is the fact that they emphasize on getting straight A's is the way for you to get good things. What teachers don't do is that they don't widen the definition of good results. So they specifically say good results equals to straight A's or straight A plus. So that is what doesn't sit right with us, because somehow students are scrutinized to think that getting straight A's and straight A plus is the only way for them to have a successful life, which is partially true, partially not true, because I think what matters the most is their skills, their hard work, and their effort in getting good results. Okay, we have to bear in mind that not every student is academically inclined. We need to remember, and as future educators, we need to pay attention to what our students' potential are, because not everyone is academically inclined, not everyone is interested in taking medicine, engineering and stuff like that. And another thing that teachers always do is that they would suggest students to take courses like medicine, engineering and accounting, because apparently these three courses will guarantee a good life which is true, but as a teacher you need to expose them to other courses as well. Okay, not everyone is interested to be a doctor, engineer or accountant. Some people want to be a teacher, some people want to be an artist. So teachers and parents are actually responsible to exposing them to other courses other than medicine, engineering and also accounting. Okay, so this is why students are always pressured in getting straight A's, because it's actually brainwashed that if you don't get straight A's, you'll be doomed, you'll fail in life, you don't be successful in life. I'm not exaggerating, this actually happened. The four of us in this group actually experienced this kind of thing. So yeah, we're just sharing our opinion based on our experience, and this is why SPM students are so much pressured, because imagine being 17 and somehow their teachers and parents imply that their worth as a person after SPM is defined solely based on the amount of A's they get. It's like back in our school days, I still remember that the teacher somehow implied that if you get straight A's, you'll get more respect. People will respect you more, apparently. That doesn't sit right with us, because we don't want the students thinking that if they don't get straight A's, then they have no hope in pursuing a great life. So this is what our topic is about, so I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the presentation. To what extent is this belief true? Are students a robot? Should they be programmed like that just because the school has their own agenda and goals and parents have their own expectations? Okay? Our students' worth should only be defined solely based on their results. So I'll pass the floor to the next speaker for them to elaborate more on the topic.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to our lecturer, Dr. Khadijah, and my fellow classmates. My name is Amirul Azhan bin Abdul Rashid, and I will be talking about why SPM is not the ultimate life decider. So, before we begin, I would like to summarize what I will be talking about today. I will talk about how the common path taken is not always successful and how the environment of the path impacts students negatively. Next, I will be explaining about what is going on behind the scenes in producing the strings of A's that high school strives for. I hope you guys can bear with me on this few minutes that I am taking from you. So, let's begin. This A-crazed phenomenon in high school years does influence schools' inherent objective, which is widely known as the National Educational Philosophy, or NEP for short, which has stated that education in Malaysia is an ongoing effort to further develop the potential of individuals in a holistic and integrated manner, and to produce individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced and harmonious, based on a firm belief in and devotion to God. Despite so, school practice reshuffling teaching styles for better results in the pursuit of garnering lots of A's. Success is equated with the amount of A's a school can produce. In our perspective, this has no difference with how the Spartans advocate their definition of success, where only healthy babies are kept and trained as warriors and left those with defects behind. Can the A's guarantee moral integrity, exceptional soft skills, and a healthy mind? Success is subjective. It depends on the individual, like beauty, for instance, is on the eye of the beholder. Before I proceed, just to make it clear, I am not saying that getting an A is not important. I'm just telling you that we should not use it to define the outcome of our life. Having to fail only makes room for us to improve, to be better, and learn more. What's left to improve if you have never failed in life? So what's the use of living? Alright, moving on. After every major public examination, we see a media frenzy and much talk about the high achievers. This publicity pressures students to do well in examinations. Not to mention that the outcome of the test paves their way for college and tertiary admissions. Many parents and students think that scoring A's in exams brings automatic success and a good life. Super high achievers are in small numbers compared to the total numbers of students who took SPM yearly. Hence, those who did not do well in SPM may feel down, but do not see this as your final chapter in finding success. The common path taken, like I said, is not always successful, and everyone is built differently. So do not be disheartened just because, academic-wise, you fall short than the rest. Well, does this mean that students who did not excel in their studies will not be successful? Academic intelligence does not guarantee success, and school systems only test and grade students according to their academic prowess. Academic intelligence does not take into account the multiple intelligence that students have. So there is still other paths in life to be successful. Alright, I'll give you an example. I'll give you some examples, okay? If you're missing a couple of credits from your SPM slip, if you are missing a couple of credits from your SPM slip, consider pursuing a diploma or a certificate. After all, they can still lead you to selected degree courses. Diploma only requires 3 credits, while certificate courses usually require only 1 credit. So if you feel like studying is not for you, then start working. You can work your way up the career ladder by taking jobs like sales advisor, administrative office, customer service executive, and more. If you have creative or technical skills that people will pay for, there's a lot of freelance opportunities available. Other than that, starting your own business is also a great way to make your career. Alright, so aside from that, there is more to life than just straight A's. Application of knowledge and regurgitating it are two different things. Most of the time, examinations requires regurgitating information to answer. So answering questions correctly does not guarantee students' ability to apply the knowledge in their life. So studying for exams is for the sake of the exam, and the expectations to excel and perform well weighs heavily on them, creating pressure, and sadly, this kind of pressure influences some unfortunate students to end their lives. 17-year-old SPM student suicide in front of classmates. Teen dies after getting SPM results. Depressed students allegedly suicide in Seremban, cites academic stress. SPM student takes his own life after he could not answer one of the papers. These are the few cases we found on the news. And this is the impact of the pressure due to the belief that A's are the be-all and end-all. Ardi Ayadali, Befrienders Kuala Lumpur Publicity Director, stated that research has shown that suicide is the leading cause of death for youth aged between 15 to 29 years old in Malaysia. Right. Moving on to my second point, which is the making of A's, behind the scenes of it. It requires an immense amount of investment, which not everyone has access to. Well, despite the restriction, students still have to grind their gears regardless until the SPM examination is over. For the students that their parents have invested money on, the pressure to perform on par with the amount of spending that they do is nerve-wracking. The worry of failing your parents, because it involves their trust in your ability to perform well, you know. So these types of students will have the tendency to be paranoid with whatever they're doing in order to achieve great results, because what can I say, their parents have put very much faith in the student's ability to perform well. I personally relate to this, but it's not on an SPM level. I would say it was back during my UPSR days, where I saw my dad's reaction towards me when I told him my result, which was not on par with what he had invested. So the situation is, now the experience is not very, I'm not very fond of the experience. So I do understand the students who are experiencing the same situation that I did, because the stakes are very high, because you worry that you'll break their trust in you to perform well. And alright, moving on, other than that, it also requires a lot of privileges to achieve the best result. For example, access to ideal education, access to extra classes, and a strong financial support. Not saying that without any of these, students will underperform. It will just make things a bit harder for them. And next up is the amount of dedication needed to score well in exams. To achieve flawless results, students need to know how to answer the questions in the paper. Hence, drilling activities occur a lot in exam classes, which makes way to extra classes and also self-study. And the last point is the investment of time. Not everyone can dedicate their life 100% to study for the sake of a flawless SPM result. Some students might find the learning environment not suitable for them because they are not academically inclined. I think that's all from me. But before I end it, I would like to share my opinion on school environment. Since I mentioned about the dark side of how pressure can influence some students. I see the school environment as ironic because schools are set to nurture students to be better from what they were before, and but now I read some cases that it's not entirely true. Some succumb to the despair that this environment has to offer. Like, the pressure is insane. Like, you have no idea, a place where a collective group think that it's for the sake of building character. I see it as a place to destroy someone's will to live. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's fun to include this in my presentation. Anyway, that is all from me. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for taking a lot of your time, and have a nice day. All right. Syahmi, Haziq.
Thank you, Aisyah and Izzy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to all of my friends as well as to you, Dr. Khadijah. So now we'll be discussing on this issue from a new perspective, which is the current situation, abundance of graduates and lack of equivalent job opportunities. We'll be continuing on our previous discussions as well as adding a new, fresh perspective, which is viewing from our real life context and situation. I am sure all of us have heard this kind of way of thinking, or I would say it's kind of a belief, where when we are talking about how we can go through our life, how we can determine our future. So the most common or the most well promoted way is started from students taking SPM. Then they are encouraged to get as much A's as possible, and then they further their studies into universities. They get into matriculations, diplomas, and then lastly they go to degrees, and then they graduate, and lastly they land onto a job. So boom, that's the most common and the most the stereotypical way of thought when we are talking about how we can be successful in life. Despite all the stuff that we have heard about and how struggling it is to actually live that life, somehow that kind of belief still stayed strong. But believe me, I assure you that in 2020, that situation no longer applies to today's world. If this was in the 2000s, it may be as easy as it sounds. But for sure, in 2020, it will no longer work as much now. Why? So that's what I'm going to explain today, as well as convince you even more on why this belief no longer works and why we should change the way we think and the way we see this, and we should see it in a more realistic view. So firstly, the first factor why the belief no longer works as intended is because of the number of graduates produced as well as the number of jobs created. So when I'm talking about jobs, I'm talking about jobs that are equivalent with the graduates' degrees and what they have studied. So according to a post by New Straits Times on February 3rd, 2020, entitled "More and More Graduates Are Facing Unemployment in Malaysia," it reported that 21 public sector universities and 38 private sector universities produced something like 51,000 graduates a year. I repeat, 51,000 graduates a year, according to Malaysia's Graduate Tracer study done in 2018 by Ministry of Education Malaysia. And also, there are more than 5,000 master students sitting for doctoral programs each year in Malaysia, a trend that brings the total number of PhD holders to 60,000 by 2023. Meanwhile, in the Straits Times post in May 28, 2019, Bank Negara Malaysia said between 2010 and 2017, the number of tertiary graduates entering the workforce surpassed the number of jobs created for them. In its annual report published in March, it said that on average, there's 173,000 diploma and degree graduates entered the workforce annually over that period. However, there's only 98,000 of high-skilled jobs that were created over that time. Also, in the same article by NST, they wrote that the economy has not created sufficient high-skilled jobs to absorb the number of graduates entering the labor force. So what does this mean? So this means that there will be not enough jobs to be given to all these highly qualified people, as well as the competition will become even more intense as more people are fighting over a single position. Also, due to the high production of graduates every single year, the rate of unemployment is increasing days by days. Reported by NST, nearly 60% remain unemployed 1 year after graduation, according to the same study. Besides that, graduating students are facing frustrating long waiting periods for job openings as well. It is bad enough that they have to compete intensely with other graduates in order to get jobs. But now, most of them have to wait for at least 6 months after graduation before they can actually be called into interviews, due to the huge number of other candidates available. Meanwhile, Edu Advisor reported that 1 out of 5 graduates remain unemployed, with the majority being degree holders, and that 25% of degree holders are unemployed. TLDR, too long didn't read. What does it mean? It means that graduates in the future will be having even more hard time seeking jobs than the present graduates, as the competition will only continue to grow, while the number of jobs offered will remain just as the same, just low. And this will slowly become the survival of the fittest, where only the best would survive, while the rest will lose the fight, despite investing thousands of ringgit and their numerous effort throughout those years of studies. So after hearing all those statistics, do you think that we still need to push our students to get straight A's and shame them when they don't? Should we guilt trip them if they are not following the path that we used to take? The world is changing, the world is evolving. So why aren't we evolving as well? We were students back then. We know how challenging SPM was, how tiring it was to get straight A's. And now, are we going to force that same thing again onto our next generation, to our children, to our future students, to force them to grind even harder than what we used to do, and invest even more, when in the end, if they follow what we are following now, they could end up with having no jobs at all, or having underpaid jobs? Is that what we really want? Also, we shouldn't forget that we are currently living in COVID-19, a pandemic that caused millions of deaths and also caused an uproar and chaos in the global economy, causing the whole world economy to be unstable. Even more and more people are losing jobs around the world, even in Malaysia. So are we going to still force them to go through what we used to do, despite having all these evolutions, having all these kind of things changing around us, and we still want to be stubborn and stay the same? So what are the answers? I'll leave the questions here for us to ponder and think which one would be the best for our next generation. But before I end my video, I would like to clarify that I have nothing against people who are pursuing their studies and choosing to pursue their careers through getting degrees. However, the thing that I am going against for today is the idea that only straight A students, those who went through degrees with flying colors SPM, are the only one who can be successful in life. What I'm saying is, there is so much to life than just getting straight A's in SPMs and getting into a degree. That's not the only way how we can become successful. So we should stop being so pessimistic, become so close-minded and think that that's the only way. We should start to celebrate that there are other ways as well to become successful, and we should also stop forcing our students to work extremely hard to extend that it's taking a toll on their mental health and also their physical health. So that's all for my part. Now I'll pass it to Zaleha.
So, moving on to the consequences of parents and teachers over pressuring students in getting straight A's or straight A plus in their SPM. So the thing is with pressure, if it's done correctly and positively, then positive outcomes will be shown. But if it's done the opposite way, then I'm afraid that sometimes unexpected things will happen. Okay, so unexpected things will vary. Okay, so students' self-esteem will be affected. They will be demotivated, and what's worse is that it can lead to suicide. First of all, teachers and we as future teachers have to know that our words have an impact on our students. We were all students back then, and we are even students right now, and we should know that. I think we know that whatever comes out from our lecturer's mouth or teacher's mouth will have an impact on us. If it's positive, then we'll be motivated. If it's not, then we'll be demotivated. It depends on the degree of each person's tolerance and capability of handling the pain. And this is what we cannot overlook, because we don't know what is people's limit. So what we as teachers say to our students matter, and it's very important for you to not to throw harsh and negative words to our students. Okay, don't think that being harsh, being garang and whatnot will help them feel more motivated. Back in my days, our teacher used to like brainwash, like, oh, if you don't get straight A's, you won't go far in life, and then you'll embarrass the school, etc. Again, it's always the ranks that matter more. From my personal experience, back in my high school, ranks were a thing back in my school, because it was actually a sekolah berprestasi tinggi. Not trying to buruk-burukkan my school. What I'm highlighting right now is how they approach students. Okay, so back in my PMR days, I didn't get 8 A's. Sadly, I got 7 A's, 1 B, and the B was science. Apparently, the students who didn't get 8 A's, they were like, I think 20 of us, we didn't get straight A's, so we were called in front of our batchmates in the hall, and the principal and also the senior assistant of academics was using a mic, and they called out our names. They called out our names, and they were actually holding a file. And when they call out someone's name, for example, my name, Aisyah Nabihah, and they'll say, oh, you're too active in band, so that's why you don't get 8 A's. What I can say is that this approach is very toxic. It didn't motivate us at all to do better. In upper form, it actually crushed our self-esteem. Also, I still remember that on my first day of maths class in Form 4, we were asked who didn't get 8 A's, and I raised my hand, and then she asked me, what subject did you get B? And I was like, science. And she was like, are you sure you can handle Form 4 and Form 5 subjects if you can handle lower form science subject? And I was like, well, that wasn't something I want to hear on my first day, you know. Okay, it's a lie. If I wasn't affected by my results, it's a lie. Especially when you're in that kind of environment where people know you as this school student, and people know that this school is one of the top schools in Malaysia, etc. It was a lie if we didn't feel insecure, intimidated. But it is what it is. We tried our best. The school tried their best in providing us enough education, but things happen, and I'm just highlighting their approach. It was very toxic, and it's not acceptable, and I hope that we as future educators, we won't do that to our students. There's another way to approach them, to approach this kind of issue. If they think that doing that can actually boost up our motivation to do better, it didn't. It crushed us more. What I'm gonna do when I'm a teacher in the future is that I'm gonna tell my students that 7 A's are definitely okay. They tried their best, and that is the best that they can get. I'm not trying to normalize mediocre effort. What I'm trying to highlight is appreciate what your students get. Don't narrow success down into just getting straight A's. Okay? Please remember that. Please don't do that to your students or your child. Okay? It's a reminder for me too. Because up until today, I still remember how I felt back then. I'm sure that my friends still remember how they felt back then. It was like a first-hand embarrassment, and I don't think that everyone wants to feel that way too. So yeah, don't do that to people, okay? Other than affecting the students emotionally, pressuring students to study too much and to get straight A's in their SPM could actually lead to self-harm and suicide. Back in 2015, there was a Chinese student who committed suicide because apparently he couldn't answer one of the questions in his advanced paper. Another Indian student also committed suicide after taking his SPM results because apparently he said that his results are not good enough. So I think SPM students have their own expectations of the results too, and do not say that they're not trying their best or whatnot, because I'm sure they are all trying their best to achieve the best they can. But the thing is with pressure, like I said, if it's done negatively, then it will definitely come out negative. So
this is an example of how they were negatively pressured. Even though she got 10 A's, she still thinks that it's not good enough and that she'll disappoint her parents.
There are a lot of ways, a lot of approach that we can use to motivate students. We have to try not to pressure them too much, but at the same time, don't settle for mediocre effort, okay?
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I am Siti Zaleha, and today I will be presenting about the solutions to the problem at hand. But before that, what is the problem at hand? So as my teammates have explained before, the problem at hand would be students are too pressured into getting perfect grades for SPM. And as the saying goes, where there is a problem, there should be a solution, right? Therefore, the general solution for this problem is that we should identify and use ways to lessen the pressure on the students. Okay? And to do that, we had come up with 4 steps to actually practice this towards the SPM students. Okay? So, the first step would be to be moderate in pressuring the students, because no matter what the circumstances are, we should remember that the students are also human beings, which too much pressure can only disrupt their mental health, and because each student is built different, we cannot expect them to be perfect, like all of them to be perfect and be achieving straight A's all the time, right? Like as said by the National Population and Family Development Board Chairman Tan Sri Dato' Napsiah Omar, she said that she believes that children were pressured to score examinations and almost had no time for leisure activities to help them unwind from their stress. So, the stress is mainly caused by competition among students striving to be the best. Okay, so in regards to this means that the pressure does not only come from themselves or the friends, but it also comes from the teachers, the parents, the family members. So we, as the society around these SPM students, should really remember that they are not our projection. Like they deserve to have their own life and to handle their stress like however they want. We should not be pressuring them into getting straight A's all the time, and if they fail to get them, some people would just scold them or saying that they are worthless. That shouldn't be the way to counter this kind of challenges. Okay, so the next step would be, we as a society, we should stop saying straight A's is everything, because it really is not. Okay, so getting straight A's in SPM is important, but it is not everything. Okay, because through experience, even people who did not get straight A's in their SPM actually achieve better results in university. Like for example, I have a few of my friends, as in a lot of my friends actually, who didn't manage to get straight A's for SPM, but when they went into university and they got to choose their own courses, they were actually 4 flat achievers. Like, that is amazing, right? Yes, this does not mean that we should discourage them from getting straight A's or trying their best, but we should not say like, if you do not get straight A's, you will never succeed in life. That is a taboo sentence that shouldn't be said by anyone, especially by their teachers. Okay, so but in the alternative way that could get them be motivated to actually achieve more, like to achieve their best in SPM, would be to come up with plan B to actually help them after SPM. Okay, so we as the parents, the family members, or even the teachers, like, okay, for example, if that person, that student did not get the straight A's that they've always wanted, right? So we should not condemn them, but actually show them that they have a plan B. Like maybe what are the courses available for their achievement, right? Okay, so the third solution would be to guide them rather than to be a dictator. Okay, so again, we as a society around these SPM students who are already stressed out by their exams, okay, so we should provide them with comfort and a two-way communication environment. Okay, this two-way communication environment would be very important so that the students actually feel that they have someone at home or at school to support them in whatever they do. Because for example, if a teacher only tells them to like being a very like a dictator and telling them that you should get your straight A's, okay, or not, you don't mean anything to the school, for example, okay, so but then when people order the students around, they might feel demotivated. They might feel that they are only expected to achieve their best just for the sake of the school or for the sake of the parents, okay, and not for themselves. And that is really sad, okay, and that shouldn't happen. All right, so therefore we as a people around them should always give positive support, and just maybe if we cannot help them in ways that, for example, we cannot teach them because the syllabus is quite challenging, right? Maybe we should just tell them that we are here for these students, no matter what their achievements are. Like, we still believe in their capabilities. Okay, so yes, this is very important and needs to be integrated into our daily lives. All right, and then the last solution would be to give options to students, and we should respect their choices. Okay, what happens at school most of the time is that the students are told, okay, the students are told what they should be, what they should do, what they should not do, instead of consulting with them, like opening up, like giving them the chance to actually think of what they want to be, think of what they want to achieve for themselves. Okay, because this kind of personal growth is very important in order for them to successfully transition into the after SPM life, okay, which is university and to adulthood. Because without this growth, they would kind of like go into a kind of culture shock, right? Yes, and so that then we should actually show them that they can succeed in any field of their preference. Okay, and yes, I am stating this again, this does not mean that we are giving them a green light to like just give up on SPM, or just, you know, no need to learn, no need to study anymore because I can succeed in anything, right? But by reassuring them that they do have a place after school, like regardless of their achievements in school, they would actually feel that internal intrinsic motivation to actually achieve better, right? Because we should always remember that these students are not just young students who cannot think for themselves. We should treat them as people who also have feelings and also can think for themselves. Actually, they know that they want things. They know that they want to try to succeed, okay? But sometimes they just need someone to reassure them, to tell them that this pressure that they are putting on themselves would be actually worth it later, okay? And yes, so in conclusion, for these solutions, the general theme would be that love and care are the best forms of support. Okay, so we as teachers and parents and family members, we should actually encourage the students with love and care rather than using fear in order to maintain their and preserve their happiness and mental health. Okay, so by providing a very comforting and very full of love, environment for the students, this would actually help them to feel like, oh, I want to do better in my SPM or in whatever I'm doing, so that I could maintain this love and support, because everyone is supporting me right now, and I understand why I should do better, right? Yes. So, and also, this would actually prevent them from going into the depths of mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, because some households actually practice fear in disciplining the students, and this can be used, but not to an extent where the students are always anxiously afraid of showing their parents their own grades, because if, for example, they failed a subject, then they know that when they tell their parents will get really mad and maybe even receive some kind of domestic violence, and that shouldn't be the way to encourage students. That will only demotivate them and tell them and reinforce that to them that they do not have a place in this world without straight A's in SPM, and that should not be practiced at all. That is a very wrong mindset. Therefore, we as the future educators, or the people who would be helping out these SPM students later on, we should always remember that love and care would always be the perfect solution, okay, in order to actually help them out even in life, or in other things too, because even we would need this love and support from people, right, in order to do the things that we love and to succeed. So yes, so hopefully that all the solutions would really help out our future students and also future educators, and in order to make our society a much better society in the future. Okay, so I thank you very much for listening, and now I pass the floor to Aisyah for the conclusion. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
To conclude, I'm sure that we all have our own bittersweet memories about high school and SPM, and sadly we only realize the maybe toxicity of our school and how we were treated by them after we leave school. But at least we learn a lesson on how to be a better educator or a better parent. Okay, so to conclude, I hope everyone understands that we are definitely encouraging students to do well in SPM, and we totally understand why teachers and parents encourage, support, motivate their students and children to get straight A's. Sometimes for some family, education is the only tool for them to climb up the social mobility, and we totally understand, agree, and support. But the gist of our presentation today is that how we can encourage and help students instead of downgrading and looking down on the students, which we motivate them more. I hope we all can try to be a teacher or parent who assures them that to do their very best in SPM, and even if they didn't get what everyone is expected of them. Hope we can assure and comfort them that they have done their best, and SPM is totally not the end of the world. It's just the beginning. We don't want our students and children to enter the next phase in life with so much fear, insecurities, doubts, and etc. We don't want that. So don't be the kind of teacher that scars your students to the end of their lives. Never do that. Be the kind of teacher you never had in school. Or if you had a favorite teacher back then, maybe you could actually practice their qualities with your students later. But be the kind of person that your students are most thankful for, and your students will remember the most. Not even if they didn't get straight A's, it's not the end of the world. They've tried their best, and what more important is, what did they pick up from high school? What kind of skills, what kind of mindset, what kind of attitude? So that matters too. Okay, so their world is literally just about to start, and remember that what we see and how we say things to people are actually very important. So always remember to be kind always. The Form 5 students are under a lot of pressure from teachers, school, parents, and also from themselves, making them feel as though they are not good enough in this world is probably the last thing we will want to do. So be kind always, okay? Remember that they're humans too, and remember the purpose of you being a teacher. You want your students to be just book smart, or you want them to be just street smart, or you want a little bit of both. So be that kind of teacher. Okay, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I hope that you'll have a very nice day ahead. Thank you.